Hello everyone and welcome back to another altered video. This week we're showcasing a new hero, yay! So it is an Atsadi and Surge list titled Hefty, named for all of the large creatures that are in the deck. Um, Heavily ramp focused, and as is our standard deck building philosophy, it is very heavy on the gas, very light on the brakes. So, when we play, we limit test, we see what we can pull out or what isn't working for us, and then we adjust from there. And if we can find spots to add in more removal or more interaction, that's when we do it. But it's always good to just get in, play, rip as many cards out of your deck as you can, see what works, what doesn't. Alright, this is a very ramp focused list. We've got 8 ways to cheat on mana. 3 Tiny Djinns, 2 Mighty Djinns, which we've seen before out of our Basira and Kaizaimon lists, and then 3 Swift Djinns. So before we explain this card, perhaps we should start by explaining our hero first. So he begins the game with 5 heroism counters, and when you play a character with hand cost greater than or equal to his heroism counters, you draw a card and he gains 1. So it's harder to trigger him later in the game, but you draw cards if you can play things that have a hand cost of 5 or greater, depending on where you're at throughout the game. So Swift Djinn is the first of those creatures, costs 6 for 5/5/3 worth of stats, but it has Scout 3. When it enters, you put a card from your reserve in your mana zone, and the way that interacts with Scout is that you are actually able to put him into reserve from hand before you choose a card. So at the very least, you can always send him into the mana zone off of his own ability, and if you've got anything else there that you don't really care about, you can throw that instead, keep him around. Not a great rate, paying 3 mana to not affect the board and ramp yourself for next turn, but with Atsadi and Surge, at least you draw a card. Can be a pretty good way to recoup, um, the lost tempo if you can leverage that into more expeditions later on. A lot of standard cards that we're playing here, Serengar's Bouncers. We are running the Sakurabru Energy Bars combo. You can go back and have a look at one of our early Basira and Kaizaimon lists if you want to see more of that. But basically it pushes both of your opponent's expeditions back if you can have an Energy Bars on the field when Sakurabru is played. The other large creature that we have in the deck to trigger Atsadi and Surge is Theseus. So it's an 8 cost character with 6/6/6 stats, but it also has Scout 3, and when it enters you can return a character to its owner's hand. Again, the way this interacts is that you can actually bounce itself with its ability for 3 mana. So that will let you get a heroism counter, draw a card, and keep him in your hand, from where you can, from which you can either play him again to draw another card later, or send it into the mana zone and keep whatever it is else that you draw. So those are the ways that we interact with Atsadi and Surge for the most part. Sakuraba is in there for a different reason. The Hunger as well. Been a bit of an all-star card from Whispers of the Maze since it came out, both in the purple and the red list. So we're playing 2 each of those as ways to split the difference and figure out, which one is better. We might go up to 3 of one and down to 1 of the other. We'll find more space. And then we've got Kaibara. So it's time to showcase the uniques. We've got an 8/8 with Gigantic and Tough X. You can draw a card or gain 2 boost if you play it out of reserve, or you use its support ability. The other 2 are just the 3rd copy of Mighty Djinn that we have. Worse stats than the original, costs more to play out of reserve, but it can boost another character and remove fleeting, so it might be able to recoup a card there. And then Haven Warrior, which is just a 4 mana 5/3/3, so good stats on the green that can come into play. We don't really have many ways to boost it, so this is sort of flavor text, but These are just the cards that I looked at in my list and sort of threw in there. So they are all on the suspect list for this deck off the rip. 3 Duel of Grits. I only own 2 rares, so we're playing those plus the one. We'll see if the fact that you send a card to reserve matters enough for us to try and get the third, and then 2 mana eruptions. So because we're ramping so much, we're hoping that this card will let us get rid of troublesome permanents, even at the cost of one of our mana orbs. But if we're ramped far enough ahead, so we've got 2 more mana than our opponent, we won't feel that quite as bad. So we'll look at all of these cards, see what comes up, see what doesn't, and then we will move on from there. This is very early stages, haven't played any games with this just yet. I'll see if I can get time to play 1 or 2 before I have a chance to record, but we'll figure that out as we go. Yeah, looking to just ramp ahead, have more things to do than our opponent throughout the game, and sort of win that way. Drawing a card occasionally off of our hero will help that. So yeah, let's get into it. I'll see you in game 1. Alright, and here we go, game 1 with our new deck, Atsadi and Surge in Bravos, nicknamed Hefty. Alright, we're up against Sigismar and Wingspan, playing second. See what we can get done. This list is going to be tight. Their Sandmans are going to be good. License Withdrawal potentially as well. Okay, this is a bit of a rough hand. We'll get rid of the Mana Eruption in favour of Duel of Grit. One of the Serengars, and unfortunately the Hunger will have to go as well. This is going to be a pretty weak hand from us. To start off, all things considered. Always like starting paying your full 3 mana where you can. However, you don't get to choose. No mulligans in Altered. So we'll see what they want to do with their first day. Best case scenario, I guess, would be an Orders Carrier. No, they've dropped a Trooper. Alright. Could see a Scout out of our opponent with the Aegis Templar. See any other number of 2-drops. Or a Gift of Self. There you go. We'll draw 2 cards. Alright, they've gone up. At some point, I think we'll trust that we'll be able to recoup that. However, it won't be for a while. Alright, eat me energy bars, tiny gin. I do like the idea of the tiny gin. Gets us ramping a little bit. Our opponent's going to be flush with choices. We can play the Serengar and Duel of Grit on the Orders Trooper. And I think we'll play it out on the companion side here. Just to give ourselves the choice to play the Tiny Djinn as well. So that'll get us to 3/3/1 stats. Obviously loses to the 4 mana that our opponent is presenting. Especially with the Orders Trooper being mana positive for the stats that it gives. But our main plan will be to just Duel of Grit or whatever 2-drop or 1-drop they play. And if we have to pivot, we can pivot onto the Tiny Djinn. This loses to our opponent if they play Orders Trooper into Teamwork Training, because they can contest on that side win there if they get rid of our Serengar. So what I think we'll do to insulate against that is just get rid of the Trooper. If they have another 1-drop and then teamwork training, at least we ripped a card out of their hand. We will still lose though, and that's sad. We don't like losing. And they just pass. There you go. I reckon they got a teamwork training in hand. They wanted to use it. We'll see if that comes to fruition. We're going to play the Tiny Djinn next turn. Presumably. Oh, we got 2 of them. I actually kind of like them. The Haven Bouncer will be good, not this turn, but next turn. The 2 Tiny Djinns. And we've got the Eclut here as well, which is good stats for what it gets. I think we'll have to get rid of one of the Tiny Djinns. We're representing 2 ramped in hand already. And the Tiny Djinns with their brown only stats are pretty useless right now. Playing around the teamwork training again by playing a 4-drop is pretty nice. I like that. Although that is all the stats that we're going to represent this turn now. Oh, Ozma, if you control 4 or more characters, draw a card. Perfectly reasonable. I'm just going to play the Tiny Djinn out. They've only got 1 mana left. We'll just take another 1-for-1. We're pretty happy with that, considering we are going to be ramping over the next couple of turns. Keep talking about it. It's definitely the very large focus of this deck. We'll have 6 mana next turn. I think we'll have enough stuff to do with what's in our hand that we can afford to send the Mighty Djinn to mana this turn. Do get a Swift Djinn, which should let us draw a card. It's got the hidden text on it from Atsadi and Surge here. Although we are flush with 3-drops and a 4-drop to play in conjunction with our Tiny Djinn. Tomoe goes in as good stats. The Eclut will be able to exhaust their Ozma. Doesn't really do that much, except be 1 mana for 3 stats. But they're only blocking with it. So I think we get rid of the bouncer here. Usually your exhausts are only a stopgap until you can access your sabotage. There are small differences depending on whether you're playing first or second, or which are more important. Sabotage usually being better when you get the first play. But we're going to be greedy here. I think what we'll do is we'll play the Eclut on the hero side, exhaust the cadet, sorry, not the trooper, so that if they want to play the Ozma out, they actually get no value out of its 3 blue stats. So that one will probably stay in reserve here too. And depending on what our opponent plays, we can choose to ramp with either the Djinn or the Swift Djinn, which draws us a card. We can play the Tomoe Gozen. I think if we see a permanent out of our opponent, we may commit to take a double lead with the Tomoe. They drop an Ortis Crier. Okay. Four stats worth of mana out of our opponent. Obviously one with the Ozma. So they'd be able to block us if they play her. So what we'll do is we'll contest on this side. If they have teamwork training here, they can block and then play a 1-drop. They get the Legate instead. Perfectly reasonable, but we're happy taking a 1 for none here. So we are ahead, and now the onus is on our opponent to compete. No choice for us to be made because they get to sabotage, but they got to get rid of something here. It'll be the Tiny Djinn. Interesting choice. They get rid of the cadets. They keep their Legate around for more sabotage. Serengar and Tracer. Tracer is good stats. Serengar is more cards. We're going to be drawing a card anyway, probably this turn with the Swift Djinn. So I think we'll get rid of him and try and put a big fat wad of stats on the board. Got an Ortis Crier. They'll exhaust our Eclut here. Perfectly reasonable from our opponent. We can play out everything in our hand now, which is nice. Our stats line up reasonably well against their Ortis Crier as well, so they've only got 3 in blue, so if they play him, we'll still advance on blue. If they play nothing to follow up, we can still take a 1-for-1 with the Bravos Tracer. If they do want to play something else out, because they won't be able to add any additional stats to the companion side. So we're in a pretty good spot here, but I'm not getting complacent because I have no idea what to do with this deck. I'm sort of just making it up as I go. But we do have another choice to make, which is whether to keep the Swift Djinn. Okay, interesting. Presumably they're going to be playing the Legate out. Scout 3, we have nowhere to keep that on the board. Unfortunately, we're 1 mana short. But what we'll do is I think we'll play the Tracer out on this side, just to make sure that we can still play something this turn. I assume we're going to see the Legate out. Yep. We'll scout the Swift Djinn. We'll draw our card. Another Swift Djinn. Don't actually mind seeing that. We'll discard him to reserve. And put the Djinn in the mana zone. Alright, the little the little misplay we might have made, or the point of interest in this game so far, was keeping the Eclut over getting rid of the Haven Bouncer. The Sabotage might have served us well here. Huh? Our opponent has discarded their their Jack Frost to the Sabotage from the Legate, I think, there, rather than getting rid of our Eclut, which we are going to play out immediately, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Put a bunch of stats on board. Bravos Tracer, Mana Eruption, and Nice. I actually think we sit on our cards here. Yeah, our opponent definitely made a mistake there. What I am concerned about doesn't really matter which side we play it, so we'll play it out here. It'll gain a boost. We'll exhaust the Crier. Our opponent hasn't dropped anything in chat about the mistake that they made, but we've got pretty reasonable options here. We can scout the Djinn again. That draws us an additional card. And then we can play either the Tracer or the Mana Eruption. I think we'll play the Tracer now. And determine what the best course of action is for our last 3 mana, depending on what our opponent plays. So Rallying Call. What do they choose to boost? The Crier. It's very low value. Very low value to use a real card on a token that they've gained. But what leaves them with more stats? So if we get rid of the Ordis Recruit, they go down to 2-2-3. And if we get rid of the Aegis Templar, they go to 3-3-3. It doesn't matter which one we do. We use the Swift Djinn because they've already seen it. We'll actually get rid of the token here. Obviously they can still play a 3-drop plus their Rallying Call. And we've actually evened up the scores with the mana, because we discarded one and chose not to put anything in this turn. So we could have just sent the Swift Djinn to the mana zone there and had one extra. But I do like the idea of drawing a card at some point, so, you know. They sleep the Eclut. Alright, our plan hasn't fully come to fruition this turn, or this game. So we are in a bit of a tense spot, but it's nice to see that we have some reasonable amount of play against Sigismar, kind of the gold standard for, you know, deck viability is whether you can beat these, because a lot of people will play it. So we'll see what we do with our remaining turns. We'll send the tiny Jin here, it's fine. We'll play out both of these. We get 10 stats in brown, 8 in blue. Assuming if they play out the Ordis Crier here, what I think we do, I think we have to play the Swift Jin out. We miss out on our ramp, and they can't actually license withdrawal themselves to a win here. They can teamwork training, so that does it as well. They did need that one, so we'll concede. Alright, not a bad start. That was fun. But we'll see if we can grab a win with the next game. On to game 2. Alrighty, and here we are with game 2 of our Atsadi and Surge list after a close loss to a Sigismar and Wingspan list. I am filled with optimism. Alright, we're in a mirror matchup, so we are going to see if we can learn anything to take moving forward with this deck. Hunger's too early, energy bars might be good, but we have no ways to ramp into it. I don't like Mana Eruption. And I think the Tome Away is a bit rough as well. Alright. Unfortunately, we are playing first. Our opponents get to do whatever they wish. So they don't know that. See what comes out of them. Maybe a Swift Jin, Tiny Jin, some Jin of some sort. We were right. So we'll pass the turn. We don't have a Tiny Jin of our own to compete with. Chiron, and they will boost the little guy. Alright, that's a bit rough. This, if this goes away, is the second copy of the Hunger that we're running. Pretty sure, yeah. That might have play later. It's not, I don't know. Never played against another Atsadi and Surge, but it feels like it's not really the matchup for this card. Although if we ever hit 11 mana and get the energy bars and the Hunger out, it's going to be pretty spicy. But I think what we'll do is we'll give up on the energy bars for now. If our opponent gives us an opportunity to, we might just end up sabotaging the Chiron. But as they haven't, we'll scout our Theseus. We'll return him to hand. And we are rewarded for getting rid of the energy bars with another energy bars. Um, Still not necessarily the best. I guess it's still early days. Haven't hit any of our ramp with the gins or anything. And notably, we don't play the Chirons to boost things. It's got a Swift Gin and a Sakura Brew. Alright. Alright, this has been an incredibly clunky start from us. Still being turn 3. And we actually can only play one card. It's alright. So what I think we'll do, we'll draw our card. Hopefully we get something we can play. We do not. We'll send the Jin to reserve and then put him in the mana zone for next turn. At least we caught up on ramp a little bit. Still behind, and not that our opponent knows it right now, but they will soon find out that we got not much to play here. Yeah. No reason to sandbag it. Not many decisions to be made here. But they can't follow up either. I'm actually not too upset about that. Losing one there. Still pretty rough. We are 2 behind. Okay, and we've got some decisions to make. This is entirely too many creatures, too many large creatures, so I think the time for Theseus is over. I believe what we'll do... I believe what we'll do is we'll play out the Mighty Jin and the Serengar. Okay. We'll pass on Jin's ability. So at least we go 1 for 1 here. The reason we played out to the hero side is that we couldn't have actually blocked our opponent on the companion side, and we keep them on the green, which we do have fairly strongly here. Aros is an arrow ability, so if we play something out, we can give whatever they play out of that fleeting. Do we want to ramp here? It does get us ahead of our opponent, but what do we do with 9 that we can't do with 8? We can play Serengar, Bouncer, Energy Bars. I think we'll just draw a card and see what we can get done here. Alright, this ain't too bad. This looks like a pretty good spot for the Mighty Jin. Could just play out both of those. potentially Mighty Jin Duel of Grit Serengar. So we could have, had we put the Mighty Jin into the mana zone instead, we could have played the one we had from hand, plus energy bars, plus Serengar. And that might have looked juicy. Alright. Pass here, play out the bouncer. Getting a little bit juicy with it here. Unfortunately, no chance to ramp again, because we would like that, but we can cheat a little bit on our mana by playing out the energy bars. Okay, they target the Amarok, which is good for us. We'll play the energy bars on the bouncer side, which is good because it keeps it around for next turn. And it keeps us within sight here. This is entirely too many Duel of Grits. But we do see the full spread of them out of the cards that we had, which is kind of cool. Had trips, one was just a different suit. And we can look to play Sakurabru into a Duel of Grit. I clicked the wrong card. Oh my god. I'm so sad. It's been a long day. Gotta say. Not playing at my best. See what they want to do. Maybe if they were planning on Duel of Gritting whatever we played. Physical training. Perfectly reasonable. Now we'll play out the Sakura brew. Feel like a moron. Oh well. That's alright. We just threw away one of our premium removal spells for literally no reason. Oh, okay. Alright, we're still alright. We're still alright. What are we gonna get done? What I think we do is we bounce her away the Sakurabru. Scholar's Vault. We'll play out the Sakurabri now. It's got a bunch of stats, see what they want to do with the remaining mana. If they play something worth 8 or 9 mana here, maybe a Hunger. Interesting. Interesting choice. They pass here. I actually think there might be some reason. They'll be able to... If we had one remaining mana, would have been able to Mighty Djinn and ramp here, but you know, doesn't always work out that way. We've evened everything up. Get rid of these two, see what they want to keep around. Yeah, I think we keep Kobara around actually. So they can play up to a 9-drop here between Scholar's Vault and Eros. This might be a time to play our Kaibara out, actually. We could Sakurabru and Mighty Djinn. It's alright. Let's see what they want to do with this information. Eat me energy bars. So they win if we can't block them here. The question is, are we able to advance on both sides as well? Are we better off playing the Hunger or Sakurabru here? Because we can bounce them back, they win on both. We end up in the same spot. If we had a tiny Djinn, maybe we could have contested somewhere. No. Unfortunately not. Duel of Grit. Yeah, that does it. Alright, so the Hunger was the play there, unfortunately. But that's alright. So we've bounced them back. They win a double. We try and force them to overextend. Theseus might have the text of just bouncing whatever they play. 12, so 3. So we can't play it and the Hunger and Duel of Grit. We'll get rid of this guy. I think what we'll do... So we'll play the Mighty Djinn out here. I like the idea of them playing Erosh into something else. If their last card in hand is a Duel of Grit, we lose. No? We trade 1 for 1. If their last card in hand is some form of creature, we can Duel of Grit the Eros. Sorry, I've been very quiet here. Fire Rabbit. Did we do it? No, we tied. No, we did do it. Oh my god. There you go. That was sweaty. Man. Deck's so new, I don't even know when I'm winning or not. Alright, there we go. First win on the board for Atsadi and Surge. It was in a mirror matchup. So we're at best 50-50 to win those, unless they're better than us, which they usually are. And a couple of things to think about for the debrief for this video as well. So thanks to our opponent, gave us some ideas, made my heart stop a few times in there. I went very quiet. This might be the first time I ever go through and cut out all of the silence in a game. We'll see how we go. Alright, see you in game 3. Alrighty, and here we are with game 3 of our Atsadi and Surge deck. See how we go. I believe... Check this. Yes, we are playing first. You can see the little token behind our deck list there. We're up against Akesha and Taru. Alright, this may be one of the saddest hands I've ever seen. 3 4-drop creatures. 1 8-drop, 2 removal spells. Alright, that is a big red mark against this deck. We are not getting rid of our Duel of Grit for nothing. So our opponent will be free to do whatever they wish with. We take a nothing for 2 off the rip. Alrighty, it's looking like we'll try and trade 1 for 1 here. Haven Warrior but will be the play. Gets around Off You Go, which is something we'd be thinking about here, but we'll let our opponent really get away with murder. playing the Moth Breeder. So if they've got any draw spells in hand, they can use them for free. Won't be able to use removal unless they want to just flat out banish Gate a card. And we'll look to Mighty Djinn, Tiny Djinn next turn. We always have the option of Haven Warrior, Duel of Grit as well. So we've got play. Past the turn, took them a while to come to that decision. Who knows? Maybe they were making a burrito. Alright. What can we do here? Swift Djinn to ramp would be good. But I don't think we have... If we do that, we could play the Tracer out and try and go 1-for-1 off of that. Haven Warrior, Tiny Djinn, Haven Warrior, Tracer. It's a way to claw back into the game. We're already looking at 2 forms of ramp, so probably the third is greedy. That's my take, and I'm sticking to it. The Tiny Djinn isn't great here, stats wise, I mean. So I think we'll play out the Haven Warrior. Get no boost from that one, but that's alright. So they've recouped a card with the Baba Yaga. So we could Duel of Grit it, force them to play out another card and go down. We could try and get our ramp online here with the Tiny Djinn, or we could try and contest with the Tracer and force them to use another card. Ooh, I wasn't ready to have 3 options. I think we'll play out the Tiny Djinn. Just get that one rolling. Keep the other 2 as a bit of a gotcha for later. You know, we are behind 2 expeditions. So I'm very interested in trying to catch up at some point. Keeping these cards in our hand sort of facilitates that better, you know, having access to removal and bonus stats for what mana we put into it will be good. Energy bars and a second Duel of Grit. Alright. The companion side is looking good for our Mighty Djinn. Our opponent only cares about green, and our lack of blue likely won't impact us. 2 Duel of Grits is good. Tracer would be good as well. So maybe Mighty Djinn Tracer is what we look at. We're going to get rid of one of the Duel of Grits. Keep the energy bars, despite it not being fantastic at the moment. We'll play out a Mighty Djinn on this side. So they did stop us from ramping successfully. Playing out the tracer means that they can equalize here just with the Baba Yaga. And I think at the end of our turn we're going to choose to draw a card with the Mighty Djinn. Looking a bit light on creatures here. Yeah, they do that. Probably cast some form of spell in order to start buffing their starfish. Alright, no follow-up from their opponent. They're happy just going 1 for 1 here, as they should be. We do have to make some sort of play soon. The game's not going to go long enough for the hunger to matter here. We shall play out the Djinn on the hero side for all the same reasons we played it on the companion side last time. They only care about brown, so we're not going to get punished for our lack of blue stats. If they have any asymmetrical cards that are weak in green or brown, we can sort of take an advantage there. We'll play the Serengari out just to try and block them from advancing on the other side with their stats. We're not going to be too worried, because we're most likely removing whatever they play out into the companion side, unless they find another way to fade that. Dropping a creature into the mana zone here, or into the expeditions. But I think we'll just fire it off on whatever it is that they shoot. So they could Baba Yaga. Alright, that's cool. We'll get rid of her. That's the only thing we can do. So we may, if they have a magical training in hand now, off of the... No, they would need a starfish from hand and off you go in order to beat us on that side. So they might play out the Tooth Fairy here just to block us from advancing, even though it doesn't get them further ahead. Or they can just be happy evening everything up. They've earned enough of a strong position to warrant that, I would believe. So maybe this is the point in the deck, in the video, where we start thinking about what it is that we want to... Oh, that's rough. Play out the Tooth Fairy here. That beauty sleep's going to be a problem unless we can get rid of it. Alright, maybe getting rid of the hunger was a problem here, because it would have dealt with that. Alright, we've got an Aklut. Okay, we're going to get rid of the Tomoe Goes in here. I'm going to try and play out everything. If they have another beauty sleep, it's going to be rough for us, but at least we've dealt with the one that we can see. And we're going to look to try and play into whatever they choose. Either we draw a card here off of that choice. How many points did they get? Yeah, that's enough. That'll do it. Alright, we'll concede. Disappointing. But we had a really rough start, so gonna have to talk about that one. We've been testing so many gooby decks that we've actually dumped right back down to those 100 points you can't lose. That's embarrassing. No, that's alright. Maybe we'll do a bit of grinding and see if we can get that high up again. That is cool. Alright. See you in the debrief. Alrighty, and there you have it. 3 games done with our new Atsadi and Surge list. A 1-2 record against Sigismar and Wingspan, and Akesha and Taru, and obviously we did take the win in the mirror matchup. Alright, this deck is okay, but it needs some work. That hand that we had in the third game was about as close to the worst that I've ever seen out of any deck in Altered in my time playing. It literally just didn't have a creature to play turn 1, so we had to ramp and then sort of go from there, and it's pretty hard to, you know, win a game when you're playing chases on both sides from turn 2. So I think we need to look at cutting down on those sort of 3 and 4 drops that we have. So let's have a quick count of them. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 cards that we can play for 3 or 4 mana that impact the board or don't in the you know, when talking about Swift Jin and Theseus plus the 8 energy bars. So if we get up and running, it can be good. You know, we hit that sort of 9 or 10 mana threshold, you know, earlier than our opponents. Hopefully, most of the time, where we can start looking at playing 2 and 3 cards per, 3 or 4 cards a turn, depending on what we've got, but it really makes those early turns clunky. So what I think we need to look at is getting rid of some of these 3 drops and 4 drops, and then swapping them out for lower hand cost creatures. Tomoe Gozen I don't mind. Obviously it's very rough, before turn 3 or 4 when it comes online. Can be earlier, but usually not. So what I think we'll do is we'll cut those, and we're going to cut down to one copy of Theseus here. Bravos Tracer I don't mind because it lets us contest around the board. We've just got ourselves 4 spots to try and fill. So, Fire Rabbit, I reckon. We look at playing some Fire Rabbits here. Do we have anything else? We could just bump up a copy of... No. We're actually at 3 for everything that we want to be playing in common. We could just bump up to a second copy of Theseus. I think 3 is too many of this card. Obviously it's not going to happen every time, but the idea of drawing a Theseus when you play a Theseus just feels horrible. So I don't think the 3 of is the way to go for that. Additionally, Swiftgin felt rough to draw too many of as well. I think we like the rare Duel of Grit enough to warrant purchasing a 3rd copy of that one. And we'll try and find something else. Alright, let's go through. What did we see out of our opponent? Chiron was good. I think just generically good in that common slot, so maybe we'll throw 2 of those in there. Okay, filters, common, beyond the gates. See what comes up. Let's get you some Boshi. No, we don't care about that. So we'll play 2 of those. Could probably go up to the 3rd, but I think that'll make our opening turns a little bit better. It gives us a way, actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways to trigger our Tiny Djinn on turn 1 as well. So that will speed up our deck a little bit too. You know, it will be rough going down cards, but that's what we're trying to do with the Djinns and the Theseuses, although we've cut on that one. The Hunger was hard to fit in unless we hit that truly end game position. I just felt like we were struggling to get to a point where we could guarantee a win on both sides with it. So the big thresholds that we want to hit early are obviously 7 and 8, because we can just play those big creatures from hand, but really 10 and 11. So if we ever get to a position where we can energy bars plus Sakurabru on the same turn, you know, that can be impactful and buy us a bit of time to rip through more of our deck. And obviously if we can hunger from hand and then an energy bars with 11 mana, that would be good as well. There were a couple of cards that our opponent showed us. Let's get rid of this. This set. Whispers from the Maze rare. See if we can figure out what it was. Not the Mass. But it was another permanent, wasn't it? The Scholar's Vault, yeah. So this one was kind of cool. Playing cards of hand cost 7 or more for 1 less. That impacts your Hungers, your Sakurabrus. And then obviously you can Theseus back the Sakurabrus to bounce your opponent's stuff again. So that can be something that we look at. Maybe Sustenance to draw through more of our deck too. Our opponent was playing Merry Reunions, so we could think about that one as well. We do have those, but I actually am thinking that this might be a deck for just a couple of Awifes. Not the full 3, But at 5 and costing 1, you can play her with a 2-drop turn 1 just to boost something and draw a card. So what we'll do is we'll go back here. I think Matter Eruption wasn't that great. So we've got the 2 Duel of Grits. I think we'll just go up to a third of that one when we can. We'll see how this goes. So now we've got more 2-drops and more 1-drops in the deck. Obviously, the rest of this is pretty irrelevant because we're cheating on a bunch of it. But we'll see how we go with this. Alright. Yeah, that looks not too bad for now. So I think we'll go with this for next time. And if there are any more changes, I'll explain them in the deck tech when the deck comes around on the cycle again. Anyway, I hope that was a good video. I did have fun playing this one. And it's always nice to tinker with decks in those early stages, you know. So much appreciated. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Hope you have a good week. Love your work.